face briefly. Hello, everyone. Let me go for big face. Let me get my photos up here and full screen this. This is dangerous. No, there's nothing bad here. Let me just check. Do I want to go through? Yeah, you know what? All the pictures here I can go through and show. Yeah, right. I'll do that in a minute. Okay, fine. So, 500 first. Let's go through the slide. You can all see me, can't you? Have I frozen? No, I'm here. We are live. Yeah, we are live. Katie, we are live. You can hear me. I can see the thing doing the thing down here. We are live. Is it working? I do have internet. Yeah. All right, can you see? Is this working? Is this working? Is it working? Go on, chat. Tell me what's going on. Yes, good. Thanks, Katie. Right, okay. Let's get rid of my face. Nay face. So, I'm going to go through the slide deck that was basically on rotation with a thing every 10 seconds. And do so kind of explain what the event was today. And you'll notice my grubby mitts all over this. But you also know that I have a strong stance on hydrogen, which is kind of why I want to go through the picture here on the story. So, 5 hydrogen first. Today's event was the first of them was the exciting one is that it was the UK's first use of rail to move hydrogen as a commodity. And kind of telling that story, it was Freightliner, a very key player in this. We sent 3 Meg Cs up to, yes, it is Rail Alphabet 2, but bolded to make it look like Rail Alphabet 1. We sent 3 Meg Cs up that were loaded in 2 a.m. this morning onto a 3 KTA wagons behind 66501, I think, which is another one of the it's the anniversary livery Freightliner, which is very nice. And then that train travelled over to Tuxford, right up to High Marnham. Marvellous. So the kind of the story that we were telling with this is the fact that, you know, if we're moving hydrogen around, independent of whether it's a good idea we're doing that or not, if we're moving around, it should be on the railways. And that's what we did. We've enabled it. And the advantage of doing this via an event... no, I don't like 66. They're very good, but they're also horrible, Gareth. So you and I share that logic. The reason why you do it in an event like this is because you get the clever people it focuses the mind to pull together the necessary paperwork, permissions, safety cases to allow this to happen. Hydrogen is a dangerous good stored at pressure. That requires thinking about how you manage it. It's not unusual. It's by far not the most scary thing we move around routinely on the railways, but it does require its own safety case and some thought. And that's exactly what we had to do for moving these around, which we are now doing. So today was the first move. So that's great. Here is a map. This map is explaining, it's explaining 2 things. The first thing is explaining within the Midlands, where High Marnham is sitting at the end of test tracks, and how that then relates to the rest of the freight networks. This isn't the whole railway network, but it is the freight network. The position of that within MCA, which is important because the East Midlands Combined County Authority is the combined authority that the kind of the regional government, if you like, the new middle layer of government that High Marnham sits within, and they are very interested in hydrogen. In some ways that are very, very useful, in some ways that are a bit daft. But one of the ways that it's a bit daft is because they're when they have a map, they have a big map. Oh, I should find the East Midlands hydrogen map, actually. East Midlands hydrogen. Let's get this up and I will show you. Here we go. F11, East Midlands hydrogen. They have this big map here. And you see these dotted lines. That's why I use dotted lines. These dotted lines are pipelines, which is obviously stupid. Do not build a pipeline network to move hydrogen around. What an enormous amount of destruction that would cause. Ship the stuff by train. You have a distribution network right now. By the way, we'll get to the hydrogen production in a minute and what that's all about. But anyway, so that's East Midlands Hydrogen is this thing that MCA are championing, along with primarily Cadent, a major sponsor of this, because they see lots of money in creating a bunch of pipelines. Others that are important as part of this, Toyota as a bit of a hydrogen advocate, and then a bunch of other stuff as well. Fine, whatever. So that's what this map is about. Is basically, you'll notice this map is similar to this map because I've done that deliberately to make that point. But here is one of the Meg Cs. A Meg C is a multi-element gas container, I think. Basically, it's a bunch of vertical, I think in this case it's a bunch of vertical, or possibly a bunch of horizontal gas canisters that are kind of clustered, and each of those gets filled with hydrogen. It's not hugely exciting, but it's the way they get stored. But it's fitting within a standard intermodal container, which is nice. If one pipe goes pop, do all pipes rapidly empty their hydrogen? No. These things are designed to be pretty decent. I'm sure you can find a YouTube video of one of these going pop, but I haven't. It's fine. They're fine. But then the bigger picture in the UK is, our railway is a national distribution network with hubs in every major city industrial area across the country, and way up beyond as well, by the way, up in the far reaches. Like, we have a freight railway network that can do this stuff right now, right across the UK at scale. Oh, by the way, you notice my little thing that I was saying across here is the railway's ready. That was my little thing. It's the thing that I said. That was the last sentence I said before I closed the event, so everyone had that fresh in their minds, because I like a little, hey, it's rail now. You see me do this every week. You know what the deal is. So the next one was the UK's first hydrogen-powered shunting locomotive, which is fun, which is the 08H. Look, here it was before, in bits, and here it is afterwards, rebuilt and full of all sorts of hydrogen gubbins and activities, which is kind of fun. So that's the story of, the railway is an energy consumer with a significant need for diesel replacement, not for traction, or at least not for passenger and freight traction in service. It is for inspection fleet. The way that operates, hydrogen is better than potentially the battery in terms of its being away from charging, and for on-track machines and on-track plants, hydrogen is absolutely an option, a viable option. And you might say, well, surely battery is the right solution for those even. Forget trains. Trains, electrification is the right long-term solution for everything. But for, battery surely better. Well, the thing about battery, as you will all know, that 08 is a hydrogen-powered 08. Yes, that's correct. The thing about batteries is that, as you all know, the materials, the technologies, the patents for batteries are all held by others, mostly China. And that's fine, except that it's from an environment. Okay, forget the geopolitics, because I don't care. I'm not a sinophile. No, sinophobe. That's the one I'm looking for. I'm not a sinophobe. I don't buy into all the weird, China stuff. The Chinese are coming. Our government does, and so this is an argument you can use to make that point. But actually, from a climate perspective, it makes much more sense to have a much closer, closed-loop supply chain. And if you have fully renewable energy creating the hydrogen, then actually efficiency becomes less critical. As long as you're moving it around in a way that is net zero, efficiency becomes less critical. Hydrogen becomes a useful vector. So there is logic to involving hydrogen in the plant element and the machine element, and indeed the shunting and kind of inspection fleet is a thing that keeps coming back to my mind as a fleet where hydrogen potentially is a valuable alternative. So thanks to Vanguard for that one, the 08H, as they call, cracking on, doing its thing. Number 3, the world's first net zero railway testing facility. Well, that's us. So test tracks. Europe's longest test track. Europe's fastest test track. We're one of the world's longest test tracks. We have over 40 miles of railway. We have 230 hectares of testing environment. We can bump 10 trains along at Melton. There's cool stuff we can do at test tracks that make us epic, and I love my job in doing this stuff. But one of the things we do is that, it's interesting, so Melton is electrified, different story, lots of energy consumed because of that. Tuxford isn't. So in terms of Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, because the people moving their trains around is not a Scope 3 emission, so it's not within our remit. So be net zero, we just need to manage our direct and indirect electricity consumption and energy consumption. And we can basically do that with some wind turbines or a PV or two. What's interesting is that will always create surplus electricity, which if we send to High Marnham, we can generate hydrogen using that indirectly. We're not going to be able to literally pipe that electricity through to High Marnham, but we can say we have generated this much surplus, and then we can go to High Marnham and say, during this week, if you took out this much electricity, how much hydrogen would that have created? And then we can go, we create this hydrogen, and therefore that much hydrogen we can justify using instead of some of the diesel generators that we operate on site, because we do have diesel generators that we use. In which case, that's where you go, we need to increase the amount of generating capacity along our line to generate the hydrogen. That means this becomes a closed loop net zero test track. You see what I mean? This is where it starts getting clever. You have to think of the whole total system. So that's very nice. So that's a really neat little thing. We know that we consume about 251 megawatt hours annually from Tuxford. We'll get rid of those. So net zero testing facility, it's a big sell for people who want to bring their trains here because it means they get rid of some of their kind of captured emissions as well. And one of the ways to do this, don't be too scared of these. It's a reasonably robust and legitimate way of capturing the financial benefit. If it's a way to, it's not PFI. It's kind of like it's imperfect because rather it's obviously better to just upfront the cost. But basically, what this does is, if you make a saving of £1,000 a month on electricity, say, I'm just making that number up, then £500 of the saving can come to test tracks, and £500 of the saving would go to the energy supplier, the electricity supplier, to pay back the capital of the investment they make on our behalf to put up the wind turbine or to put the PV out. So on a small scale like this, that is quite a neat package. If you're not willing to put the capital up, which on a small scale, you might actually find it easier to do the capital. But if you did a large scale energy performance contract, then that can work quite sensibly. So fine. Number 4, I've turned my slides green. This is where I get to talk about GeoPura and the scale of what's at High Marnham, because at High Marnham we have a green hydrogen production facility. And from their facility, they deploy hydrogen power generators. They deploy them across the UK and Europe, decarbonising temporary off-grid backup and supplementary power markets. And the the hydrogen that goes into those is now green and is generated at High Marnham using electrolyzers. So they take water from the Trent, they zap it with electricity. So in a weird way, an area that used to be a gigawatt electricity producer is going to become a gigawatt electricity consumer in the future, because they want to create a gigawatt of capacity here eventually. They're going to become a gigawatt consumer of electricity to create hydrogen, which is kind of strange and interesting, not least that the railway serviced the power station with coal and will now be taking the energy out in those meg Cs in the Lowlanders. So that's kind of interesting. Long-term supply of green hydrogen in East Midlands. It's an interesting facility. It's the most green and kind of hydrogen going. And we're going to connect it up by rail. We need about funnily enough, once again, track gauge length of railway. So we need about 1,435, or I think it's maybe 1,434 metres of railway to go down and connect up to the sidings area, which will become the loading facility. That gives us about just less than a mile of track that can become a short test track, extra bit of test track for hydrogen vehicles to muck around on. We've signed an MOU to kind of formalise this with GeoPura, and we're pressing on, and I had a nice chat with, well, let's just say good conversations were had today, let's put it that way. And then the last of the 5 firsts is creating an innovation zone where the railway and the energy industry and all their lovely money can be deployed to, they've got solutions. We can get them to see how they do or don't work on a railway at Tuxford by creating this railway and energy innovation zone. We're not talking about huge buildings and all sorts of stuff at this point. We're talking about palisade fence to create a safe working area, because that sidings area is pretty flat, so it's not a hugely costly endeavour. And what you do is bring the kit, see if it works, hit it with hammers, make sure everyone's happy. That kind of a space. Basically, as I wrote here, Test Tracks shows that nothing accelerates innovation like a physical testing space, co-located skills and knowledge. Somewhere to tinker, very important. And yeah, we signed a memorandum of understanding, which brings us close to delivery of both of these things. And that's where I get to say the railway is ready. So that's the pitch. You kind of just had a bit of a project bonus episode, but I just wanted you to see that because I thought it'd be interesting and get to tell you all of that stuff. Let's do a more talky one next time, shall we? But before I do that, let's very, very quickly fly through some of the pictures. No, that's this way. Good job you didn't say any of that because I wasn't projecting. Right, let's go no face. So now I've remembered which direction I'm going. Let's go this way. So this is JCB bringing their stuff in, so that's fine. This is the line down. This is me getting down towards the end of the line where the connection's going to be. looking back towards where the HPUs had been placed. This is where the connection will go back to where the connection used to be. You can see the sidings area through the foliage from the top of the bridge there. Here's a 93 picking up the Vanguard 08H. There's us doing a merry dance as we position the thing. Oh, look, there's a train arriving. That's going to be a short. There's me grinning. There's my horrible sound. There's the Vanguard. There is the 08H with the 93 next to it, looking lovely. Yeah, this is all my pictures, so fine. This is us setting up the site the morning of. There's a nice shot of the moon with the 08H above, which is nice, isn't it? There's Thunderbirds. Oh, the sound. I don't know what's happened to my phone, and that's the phone that I do lots of recording on, so I'm extremely worried about that because that's, yeah, my microphone going horrible is very worrying. I don't know why it's done that. Something bad has happened in my phone, and it's not great. It's a horrible hotel I stayed at. There's Dr. Emma Guthrie from the HEA doing a bit of speech and me getting some pictures, so I can. Yeah, that was the shot there with the nice. There's the 93 arriving. You'll notice a little headboard on the front of that train. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that nice? That's the best one, isn't it? Let's face it. That's very nice. And there's the Freightliner at the back with the Geopura in the KTAs. Marvellous. There's me saying stuff. There's the test track thing on the front of the 93. And there's the test track thing on the front of the 08, just because you can. And there's me. There's the Vanguard team, very pleased in front of their 08H. And there's the full moon above the whole site before everyone went home. Full moon. Marvellous. So, quite enough of that. You all know the deal. Do send your questions. And I will see you very much. That's the headboard that's behind me, the one that I was flashing in the mainline episode. I will see you lovelies all next week. Do send your suggestions and questions. There's a couple I think that we've got stacked up actually. So there's a couple of suggestions have come in. So I'll pick those up. But feel free to remind me of them. If you think I've missed a suggestion, feel free to say, no, this suggestion looks good. Do that. It was on this thing. Or if you spotted someone else's suggestion, don't ever be afraid to chuck it into the Discord server. Again, to remind me. On which note, I will say, cheerio! Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Cheerio!